The lobby of the Grand Meridian Hotel in Atlanta went silent at 2:14 on a Saturday afternoon. Not the kind of silence that happens when someone drops a glass. The heavy kind. The kind that falls over a room when people realize they are watching something that should not be happening. 80 people were in that lobby. Couples checking in for weekend getaways. Business travelers grabbing lunch between meetings. Families with luggage stacked beside them, waiting on room keys. They all stopped, and they all stared. Officer Derek Schaefer had one knee pressed into the carpet, and both hands gripping the wrists of a man in a pressed white dress shirt. The man was face down on the floor of a five-star hotel, in the middle of a bright Saturday afternoon, in front of everyone. The man on the floor was not fighting. He was not yelling. He was not resisting. He was saying two words over and over in a low and controlled voice. I'm complying. I'm complying. Nobody in that lobby knew who Marcus Webb was. Not one of them realized they were watching a federal agent being arrested in broad daylight. No ID check. No questions. Just a complaint and a decision. That was the problem. And 6 hours later, it would become the most expensive mistake Hargrove County had made in its 140-year history. If you believe accountability matters, subscribe for more stories like this. Also tell us where you are watching from in the comments. Let's go back to the beginning. Marcus Webb had arrived at the Grand Meridian that morning for a 3-day federal compliance conference. He drove 4 hours. He checked in, had breakfast, attended 2 packed morning panels that ran back to back. At 1 p.m., he came down to the lobby bar wearing a white dress shirt and dark slacks. He ordered a bourbon. He opened his briefcase. He pulled out a stack of case files he had been meaning to review all week. He sat quietly at the end of the bar, in the middle of an ordinary Saturday afternoon. He looked like exactly what he was. A professional man taking a breath between a long morning and a longer day. At 2 p.m., a woman at a nearby table called over the hotel security supervisor and pointed in Marcus's direction. She leaned in when she spoke, kept her voice low, but the word uncomfortable carried. The security supervisor was a 26-year-old named Brian Cole. He had been on the job 14 months. He had not yet learned the difference between a problem and a person. He approached Marcus. Sir, we've received a complaint. I need to ask you to move to another area of the hotel. Marcus looked up from his files. I'm a guest here. I checked in this morning. Room 412. Cole straightened. Sir, I still need you to. I paid for this room. I paid for this drink. I have every right to sit where I'm sitting. Cole stepped back, made a phone call. 12 minutes later, Officers Derek Schaefer and Paul Briggs walked through the front entrance of the Grand Meridian. In broad daylight, through a lobby full of people. They did not speak to hotel management first. They did not ask to see the written complaint. They did not ask Marcus for his room key or any form of identification. Schaefer walked directly to the bar, looked Marcus up and down. Sir, you need to come with us. For what reason? There's been a complaint. About what specifically? Schaefer crossed his arms. Sir, I'm not going to ask you again. Marcus reached toward his briefcase. He was going to retrieve his room key, his hotel confirmation, everything they needed to resolve this in 30 seconds flat. Schaefer grabbed his arm. Do not reach into that bag. It's my briefcase. On the ground. Now, 80 people watched. The lobby of the Grand Meridian, full of afternoon light, full of ordinary people living ordinary days, went completely still. Nobody moved. And Marcus Webb, a man who had spent 12 years serving this country in rooms most Americans will never see, ended up face down on the lobby carpet, in the middle of a bright Saturday afternoon, because a woman 2 tables away said she was uncomfortable. At the station, Schaefer was energized. The kind of energy that belongs to a man who confuses control with authority. He sat across from Marcus in the interrogation room and dropped a thin folder on the table, like a man laying down a winning hand. Here's where we are. Disorderly conduct, trespassing, failure to comply with a lawful order. He leaned back. That's a night in county minimum. You want to make it worse. Marcus said nothing. Schaefer smiled. He took the silence for defeat. He had never been more wrong in his life. Lieutenant Greg Morrow entered the room. 23 years on the force. The kind of man who had never, not once, questioned his own instincts. He pulled out a chair, did not sit, and rested both hands on the back of it like a man who owned everything in front of him. We ran your name. Marcus Webb. No priors. Clean record. He paused. So here's my question. What were you really doing at that hotel? I was attending a federal compliance conference. Federal. Morrow repeated the word slowly, like it tasted strange. You work for the government? I do. Doing what exactly? I'd prefer not to answer that right now. Something shifted in Morrow's expression. A flicker. A hesitation. He pushed it aside. That's your right, he said. But it's also our right to hold you here until we fully verify your identity and assess the complaint from a hotel. How long will that take? Morrow smiled without warmth. As long as it needs to. At hour 3, Marcus stopped asking questions. He stopped explaining. Stopped reasoning. Stopped trying to make any of them understand. He had done the calculation, and the math was already done. Everything in that room was being recorded. Every word Schaefer said. Every word Morrow said. The hotel lobby footage was time-stamped and fully admissible. 80 witnesses had seen the arrest unfold in the middle of a busy afternoon. At least 3 had filmed it on their phones. He had memorized Schaefer's badge number at the hotel. He had clocked Morrow's department ID in the hallway. Marcus Webb had spent 12 years building federal cases. He knew exactly what one looked like. He was sitting inside one right now. At hour 4, a young officer named Delaney brought him water and slid a yellow legal pad across the table. Lieutenant says you can write down anything you want to say in your own defense. Marcus looked at the notepad, did not touch it. Then he looked at Delaney. I want to make a phone call. Before Marcus could dial, Morrow returned. He was carrying Marcus's briefcase. He set it on the table slowly, deliberately. We opened this pursuant to the arrest. Marcus went very still. Inside, Morrow said, we found firearm. Registered? Yes. But you are carrying it into a hotel bar in this county, and your carry documentation does not match our local permit requirements. He folded his arms. That upgrades the situation considerably. I have federal authorization for that weapon, Marcus said. See, that's the thing, Morrow replied, sitting down slowly. You keep saying the word federal, but you won't tell us who you work for, which means either you're lying or you're hiding something far worse. He leaned forward. Which is it? Marcus looked at him for a long, measured moment. Then he reached for the phone. He dialed. 2 rings. This is Webb. Priority notification to the Atlanta field office. SAC Lennox. I am in custody at Hargrove County Station. Hour 4. My credentials are inside the briefcase. They have been seized. Notify the DOJ Civil Rights Division and have someone pull the hotel lobby footage immediately. Timestamp 2:14 p.m. He set the phone down. The room had gone cold. Morrow stood up very slowly. Who did you just call? Marcus folded both hands on the table. His voice was quiet, completely level. The right people, he said. And he said nothing else for the next 53 minutes. The front door of Hargrove County Sheriff's Department opened at 8:22 in the evening. 4 people walked in. 2 men in dark suits. A man in a white shirt and tie who worked for the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division and had driven 91 minutes to be standing in this room. And, at the front, a woman in a charcoal blazer carrying a federal credentials case that she had already opened before she reached the desk. Special Agent in Charge Patricia Lennox. Atlanta Field Office. Federal Bureau of Investigation. She placed her badge on the counter without looking at the officer behind it. I am here for Special Agent Marcus Webb, 12-year veteran of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, senior agent on the Organized Crime and Financial Crimes Task Force. He was detained at approximately 2:14 in the afternoon at the Grand Meridian Hotel and has been held in this facility for over 6 hours. No formal charges have been filed. His federally authorized service weapon was seized without proper jurisdiction, and his access to legal counsel was deliberately delayed. She turned. Lieutenant Morrow had appeared from the back hallway. He stood there in his uniform, 23 years of rank across his chest, and he looked like a man watching a wall collapse toward him in slow motion. Lennox looked at him with the patience of someone who had done this many times before. I need every officer involved in this arrest in a room. I need the full booking report. I need the hotel footage. And I need the name of every supervisor who authorized this detention. Morrow opened his mouth. Don't, she said quietly. The holding room door opened. Marcus walked out. He stopped in the hallway. He looked at Officer Derek Schaefer, who was standing against the wall, badge on his chest, all the color gone from his face. Marcus did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Badge number 1147, he said. I had it memorized before we left the hotel parking lot. I've been building your file for 6 hours. He walked past him and out the front door, into the cool evening air. The federal investigation took 8 weeks. What it uncovered was not one bad afternoon at one hotel. It was a system. For years of documented stops, detentions, and arrests following a pattern that federal investigators would later describe in their official report as racially motivated, procedurally indefensible, and deliberately concealed from oversight review. 41 incidents. 1 consistent demographic profile. 0 internal accountability. Until now, 17 officers were named in the federal findings. Some had been present at Marcus's arrest. Others had been involved in prior incidents that had been quietly buried inside departmental paperwork that was never meant to be read by anyone outside the county. 17 badges were pulled. The county hired outside counsel, held a press conference, called the federal findings politically motivated and factually flawed. It didn't matter. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division does not retract documented reports because a county is embarrassed. The FBI does not walk back 6 hours of recorded evidence because a lieutenant is uncomfortable. Hargrove County settled for $10 million. The money was directed into a legal representation fund for individuals who had been wrongfully stopped, detained, or arrested in the county over the preceding 4 years. Sandra Wells, the woman whose complaint had started everything, gave one interview. She said she never meant for things to go that far. Brian Cole, the security supervisor who made the call, was terminated by the hotel within 48 hours of the lobby footage being made public. Officer Derek Schaefer was the first to lose his badge. He gave an interview on his last day and said he had done nothing wrong. He said it twice to make sure the camera caught it. Lieutenant Greg Morrow took early retirement. He said very little publicly. Sources close to the department said he spent his final afternoon at the station alone in his office, door shut, blinds down. He had spent 23 years building a career on one quiet assumption, that the man standing in front of him would always be less powerful than he was. It only took one Saturday afternoon to burn that assumption to the ground. Here is what this story is really about. It is not about a badge. It is not about federal jurisdiction or civil rights statutes or what $10 million looks like on a county budget spreadsheet. It is about something older, something most people learn too late. You cannot know what a man carries by looking at what he's wearing. 17 badges. Not revenge, just accountability. And it always comes.